I'm not here to waste your time. This is the only guide you need to becoming a midfielder who always succeeds under pressure. Every midfielder thinks they know how to handle pressure on the pitch. I know some of you are saying, I am not a midfielder. Don't worry, this could actually help you, even as a defender, winger, or striker. Every midfielder dreams of looking calm under pressure, like they've got all the time in the world, even when 3 players are sprinting at them. But here's the thing, calmness isn't a talent. It's a trained response. So what did they train that makes them unpressable while 90% of the players crumble the second real pressure hits? Not because they're slow, not because they lack skill, but because they've never learned how to think under pressure. They're reacting, not controlling. So why is it that when players like Luka Modric or Sergio Busquets get swarmed, they look like they're playing in slow motion while everyone else is panicking? It's not luck, it's not magic, it's a set of habits, hidden techniques, and cold-blooded decisions that turn chaos into control. So if you've ever felt rushed, lost the ball too easily, or froze with options, you're not alone. But what separates the best midfielders in the world from the rest is how they prepare for chaos. And today, we're revealing exactly how to do that. And once you understand how the best midfielders do it, you'll never look at pressure the same way again. But first, let's break down why most players collapse before they even know it. Most midfielders crumble under pressure because they think beating pressure is about skill, not decisions. They believe if they can pull off a roulette or a drag back, they're untouchable. But here's the reality. Pressure isn't a highlight reel. Pressure is survival. Picture this. You check your shoulder once. A teammate gives the ball to you. You've got 2 seconds, maybe less, before a defender barrels through your back. And by the time you think about your next move, it's already too late. Sound familiar? That's not because you lack technique. It's because you've already lost the battle before the ball even arrived. Here's what actually happens to most players under pressure. They receive the ball flat-footed. They panic. They either play it back to the defender who's already being pressed, or they try to spin out blindly, praying the defender bites on thin air. 9 times out of 10, they lose it. Not because they can't dribble, but because their whole body is screaming uncertainty. And defenders at any decent level, they read that like a book. They don't just watch your feet, they feel your hesitation. They sense when your hips aren't committed, when your first touch is timid, when your eyes are glued to the ground. That's when they pounce. That's when your team gets punished. The truth is, pressure isn't just physical, it's psychological. The moment you panic, your decisions get slower, your touch gets heavier, and your options disappear. And the longer you hesitate, the smaller your world becomes, until all you see is a blur of legs closing in. I remember a U17 match I played where I thought shielding the ball was enough. I felt the defender on my back, thought I had time, tried to pivot, and boom. He picked my pocket and they scored within 5 seconds. That's when it hit me. Pressure doesn't wait. You either read it early, or you get swallowed alive. So if you've ever felt like the game speeds up around you, like you're always a step late when opponents close in, it's not your luck. It's not even your technical level. It's that you're treating pressure as something to escape, instead of something to control. Before the world called him the maestro, Sergio Busquets was just a skinny midfielder at La Masia trying to survive in tight spaces. But here's what separated him from everyone else. He didn't just receive the ball. He prepared the picture before it even arrived. Watch Busquets in his prime. He's not sprinting. He's not throwing step-overs. Half the time he looks like he's barely moving. But here's what's really happening. He's scanning over and over. Left shoulder, right shoulder, teammates, opponents, passing lanes. By the time the ball touches his foot, he already knows what's coming. It's like he's playing in slow motion while everyone else is stuck on fast forward. And when the pressure comes, he doesn't fight it. He turns it into a weapon. One touch to pull the defender in, a subtle swivel of the hips, then a perfectly timed pass that slices the press open like it was never there. That's why Xavi once said, Busquets sees the game 3 seconds before anyone else. But here's the key. Busquets isn't alone. The great midfielders, Iniesta, Xavi, Modric, Verratti, Pedri, they all share that same blueprint. They don't panic. They manipulate. Think of Verratti in a Champions League knockout game. He'll take a pass with 2 players hunting him down, roll his ankle over the ball, and slip it through a gap that didn't even exist a second earlier. Not because he's stronger or faster, but because he already pictured it. Or Kevin De Bruyne, drifting between the lines. Defenders close in, but he angles his body, shapes to play wide, then spins a reverse pass into the striker's path. It looks magic. It's not. It's preparation. Look at Pedri or Wirtz, barely out of their teens yet already freezing seasoned defenders with nothing more than a shoulder drop and a calm first touch. It's the same pattern, constant scanning, perfect body orientation, timing their touches to make the press overcommit. Even players built for physical duels like Declan Rice don't rely on brute strength alone. Watch him receive under pressure. He'll open his hips, bait the press to one side, then glide out the other way like the challenge was never coming. Go back to Zidane in his prime, crowded by 3 opponents, yet spinning out like he's dancing. Not because he's flashy, but because he's patient. He waits for the press to reach, then makes them pay. The Busquets blueprint isn't about tricks, it's about control. You don't beat pressure by reacting faster. You beat it by making them react to you. So next time you watch a game, don't just follow the ball. Watch what Busquets does before the ball arrives. Watch Verratti checking both shoulders. Watch Modric shape his body to turn both ways. Watch Pedri freeze 2 defenders with a single pause. Because here's the secret every great midfielder knows. Beating pressure starts long before the first touch. Here's the part nobody warns you about. You can't beat pressure in a vacuum. On the training ground, everything feels clean. The cones stay still. Your teammates aren't lunging at your ankles. You've got 3 seconds to pick your pass. But real games, it's chaos. You've got 2 defenders closing in, passing lanes vanishing, and your coach screaming for you to keep it simple. This is where most midfielders crumble. Not because they don't have the technique, but because they've never trained their brain to handle the storm. Look at Iniesta in a Champions League semifinal. 3 defenders swarm him in a tight pocket near the sideline. Most players would panic, smash the ball long, or lose it. Iniesta, 1 touch to draw them in, another to spin out, and suddenly the entire press is broken. That calm didn't come from luck. It came from living in chaos every single day at La Masia. Modric does the same.
He'll drop deep, drag 2 pressing forwards toward him, and instead of forcing a pass back, he glides through the gap they left behind because he trusts his control under pressure more than they trust their tackle. Verratti, he loves chaos. You can send 3 players to surround him, and he'll treat it like a game, rolling his body over the ball and slipping out through the smallest escape route you've ever seen. It's not just technique, it's composure, built through repetition in high-pressure drills. Kevin De Bruyne shows another angle. He welcomes the press because he knows that the second a defender steps out of line, space opens somewhere else. That half-second window is all he needs to thread a pass into a runner. Even Rice, who's built like a destroyer, doesn't just smash his way through. He invites contact, uses his body to shield, spins out, and suddenly he's carrying the ball into open grass while the opponent is still recovering from the lunge. And here's the lesson. If you only train in calm, you'll break in chaos. The best midfielders, they train in chaos. They seek it out. They put themselves in 1 versus 1 boxes with no space to breathe. They practice rondos where the defenders are bigger, faster, hungrier. They make mistakes, hundreds of them, until their reactions become automatic. Because once you've been through enough chaos in training, a real match feels slow. That's why Busquets could receive a ball with 3 players charging him and still have the confidence to pull it back through his legs and turn out the other way. He'd been there 1,000 times before when no one was watching. So ask yourself, are you training to survive or to dominate? Because the moment the pitch turns hectic, that's where true midfielders are born. Most players think beating pressure is all about quick feet and fast decisions, but watch the true masters and you'll notice something strange. They slow the game down, not because they're slow, but because they decide the tempo, not the defenders. Take Pedri. He receives the ball under heavy pressure, and instead of panicking or bursting forward, he literally pauses. 1 touch, a defender bites. Then boom, he shifts into second gear and slides through a gap that didn't even exist a second ago. That's tempo control. That's manipulating the game. Wirtz is the same story. 1 second, he's jogging in the half space, letting defenders think they've closed him down. Then he hits you with a sudden burst. Body angle opens, balls zip between 2 pressing players, and the entire back line is scrambling. He's not just reacting to pressure, he's baiting it. Watch him receive from the back line. He slows his stride, almost walking toward the defender like he's daring them to step in. And the moment they do, he accelerates with that trademark outside foot glide and leaves them reaching for air. It's not just skill, it's rhythm. It's the ability to shift gears so suddenly that the defender's internal clock shatters. Xavi and Iniesta did it constantly for Barcelona. 1 touch, slow. 2nd touch, slow. 3rd touch, explosive turn, threaded pass. The defenders frozen because the rhythm lulled them into believing they had time. Even De Bruyne, known for those killer final balls, uses tempo in the build-up. He might take an extra touch, drag a defender toward him, and then release a pass at the exact second that runner is free. To the crowd, it looks like magic. To him, it's calculated timing. And here's the key. Tempo control isn't about moving slow. It's about owning when to move fast. When defenders press, they want to set the tempo. They want to make you rush, panic, force a mistake. But when you control your speed, when you pause, bait, and then explode, you flip the script. They're the ones reacting. They're the ones second guessing. Watch Busquets in his prime. He'd stroll into a pressing trap like he's on a Sunday walk, but his brain, 2 steps ahead. One shift of his hips, one quick release, and suddenly 3 pressing players are behind the ball, out of the game. Zidane was the same. The ball would stick to him while defenders charged like wolves. Then with a lazy drag and a half pirouette, the entire press collapsed. Why? Because he dictated when the explosion happened, not them. And that's what separates a decent midfielder from a maestro. You don't just beat the press with quickness, you beat it by controlling time itself. So next time you're in a tight spot, don't rush, breathe. Slow down just enough to make the defender think they've got you, then flip the switch and leave them chasing shadows. If you think beating pressure is only about quick feet, you're missing the foundation. Because before the touch, before the turn, your body shape decides everything. Look at Busquets receiving the ball in a crowded midfield. His shoulders aren't square, his hips aren't locked. He's already open, body angled halfway toward his next pass. That one detail buys him a full second. And in high-level football, a second is an eternity. Most players make the mistake of standing flat when they receive. That forces you to take 2, 3 touches just to turn. And by then the press is eating you alive. But the greats? They're already thinking 2 passes ahead before the ball even reaches their boot. Modric does it perfectly. He scans, then positions himself so he can play forward or spin out instantly. To the defender, he's unreadable. To his teammates, he's a lifeline. Xavi once said, "I scan every few seconds. I look left, right, left again. Before I get the ball, I already know what to do." That's not instinct, that's preparation. And that scanning is why he could turn in a phone booth while 3 players pressed him at once. Verratti might be the most fearless at this. Watch him receive with his back to goal, 2 opponents snapping at his heels. He's not panicking. Why? Because before the ball arrived, he already saw the angle of the next outlet. All he needs is a tiny body roll and a disguised touch to escape. Iniesta and Zidane, artists of the same principle. They use their torso like a shield, shaping up as if they play safe, then slicing through a gap with a subtle spin because their body was already half turned. And it's not just about hips, it's about eye traps too. Ever notice how De Bruyne sometimes glances one way, then threads a pass the other? That's no accident. Your eyes are part of the deception. A quick glance to the fullback, shoulders dipping as if you're playing wide, and then you slide it through the middle to a striker making a run. The defender reads your body language, not just the ball, and you just rewrote the story. Even Declan Rice, known for his ball winning, shows this when building from deep. He'll shape his body like he's recycling possession backward, then roll out the opposite side and stride forward through the press. Simple, efficient, brutal for the opponent. Here's the truth. You can practice technique all day, but if you're receiving the ball flat and blind, you're setting yourself up to fail. The masters, Wirtz, Pedri, Busquets, they all live by 2 rules. Scan before the ball arrives and angle your body to give yourself options. Do that and suddenly pressure feels slower. Defenders look clumsy and you look like you got all the time in the world because you created that time before you even touched the ball. Alright, now you know the principles, how most midfielders get trapped, how legends like Xavi, Modric, and Pedri manipulate angles and rhythm, how scanning and body shape turn chaos into calm. But here's the part everyone skips. You can't just know this, you have to train it until it's who you are. Train under pressure. Most players do rondos and think they're press resistant, but real mastery, you need to train in environments that make you uncomfortable. Tight box drills. Set up a 5x5 grid, 2 teammates as options, 2 defenders pressing. Receive under pressure, turn or escape, then play forward. You'll lose the ball. A lot. That's where instincts sharpen. Mirror scanning drills. Stand in front of a mirror or with a partner feeding balls randomly. Before each touch, call out a color, cone, or target in your periphery. You're training your eyes and mind to stay alive while the ball comes in. Tempo variation sessions. Walk into the press, then explode. Control your heartbeat in training. So in games, you're calm while everyone else is panicking. Watch Wirtz, and you'll see exactly that. He doesn't just react, he invites pressure because he's rehearsed those tight escapes 1,000 times. The difference between a good midfielder and a great one? It's not just technical, it's psychological. Most midfielders play to survive. They take the safe option because they don't want to lose the ball. But the ones defenders fear, Iniesta, Zidane, De Bruyne, they're playing to hurt you. Every touch has intent. They want to split a line, pull a defender, open space for someone else. Ask yourself in every training session, am I just keeping the ball or am I creating something? Because being press resistant isn't about running from danger. It's about standing in the fire and turning it into an advantage. When you put it all together, the scanning, the body angles, the deceptive rhythm, the training that mimics chaos, sprinting everywhere. But defenders hated pressing him because they never knew if he'd play one touch, spin out, or split them apart. That's what you're chasing, not highlights, but hesitation in your opponent's mind. Because the ultimate flex as a midfielder isn't a skill move. It's when two pressing players close you down, and you calmly slip through them, head up, game opening up like it's in slow motion. That's not luck. That's hours of ugly training, a fearless mindset, and techniques sharpened until they're second nature. So next time you step on the pitch, don't just avoid pressure, invite it, break it, own it. Because when you can beat pressure like a pro, you're not just another midfielder out there. You're the player that defenders fear.